Hello, I'm Matt and welcome back to Workshop. So let's answer some of these questions. There was a lot of them. By far the biggest question, or the most popular question, and actually also the biggest, is how much does everything cost? So I've broken it down into sections. So we'll start with the base. I've got £755 for the base. That is, you've got the weed-proof membrane, then you've got all the timbers, you've got the feet for the timbers, you've got the Kingspan insulation, which is expensive, you've got the tape, and you've got all the fixings and fastenings. So you could definitely save some money there. I wanted my base insulated, but you could save quite a bit of money by not doing that. And also the floorboards are expensive. You could certainly save a lot of money by putting down some ply or OSB instead. So the walls come to £1,310. I mean, these all, I've gone through my invoices and this is roughly what I've spent. So all the studs, the OSB sheeting, the breathable membrane, the cladding, the battens for the cladding, the one bit of ply that goes in the roof sheet itself, the fixings, and I can't read one other thing I've got there. God knows. Anyway, you saw it all in there. Oh, the windows, that's what the other thing is. That was a big expense. And I had the door already. So, again, if you had more time, I've seen double glazed windows at car boot sales and things. If you're building your own workshop, the size almost doesn't matter. You can build around them. You see windows on eBay and reclamation centres, so you could definitely save a lot of money with doors and windows by finding them. Yeah, there's probably not a huge amount of savings on the actual structure itself. Right, the inside. So we've got the insulation, MDF, which went on the walls and the ceiling, all the sockets and the back boxes and the cabling, consumer unit, fixings, fastenings, and the paint. I've got £600 for that. So again, you don't have to clad the walls or insulate, or put nice brushed metal sockets in. And really, I think if you wanted to save some money on this build, you could do it in parts. You could do the base and the walls and the roof, and pretty much have it, well, you would have it completely done from the outside, and then you can take your time doing the insulation and inside as money comes. So, inside, well, let's go to the stove. So the stove was £280. You can definitely get cheaper stoves, but not a lot. The pipes, £210. You can get, these are 5-inch pipes. Again, if you went for a slightly smaller stove that had 4-inch pipes, you can save a little bit of money. All the other fixings, like the flashing, so it comes to £530 for the stove. So, yeah, it's quite a big expense, but if you're not warm in the shop and it's a misery to be out here, you're not going to go in. And I remember every other winter wrapping up with multiple layers, and it's hard to work in gloves sometimes. And also, glue has to be over 10 degrees, so do a lot of finishes, so it's just hard to work if it's not warm. And it's definitely going to be cheaper than running electric radiators. So the interior, oh no, not the interior, I've done that, the extras that I've added. And all of these are really essential, really. It's the lighting, security bars on the windows, the locks for the doors, a carbon monoxide alarm, which everyone has said, you must get one. I've got one, don't worry. Fire extinguisher, which no one mentioned, and a fire blanket. So there's a couple of £100 on that as well. So we are coming in at about £3,400 for the entire build. I worked it out beforehand, and I thought it was going to cost me £3 grand, so I was 400 over budget, which I'm happy enough with. You could buy a workshop this size on eBay, delivered for probably under £1,000, but it's not going to have the insulation, it's not going to have any internal cladding, it's not going to have the electrics, and you can retrofit all these things, but it's harder because it hasn't been wrapped in a breathable membrane. So you don't build it to save money, is what I'm saying. Is you build it because you want these specifications, and that's what I wanted. So, done the cost. How big is it? External dimensions are 6 meters by 2 meters. So, it's slightly smaller inside, obviously. A lot of people ask why I've moved to Durham, or County Durham. I was renting my workshop down in Hampshire. I had to move. They were selling the building. I wanted to do this full time, which means I needed to buy a house and have a workshop. I looked at renting workshops and houses, and it's just absolutely ridiculous money. So I could afford it up here. I could afford a house big enough to be able to do it up here. So I came up and visited a few times, looked around. Durham city's lovely, the countryside around here is nice, and yeah, well, it's all new. We'll see how we get on. Are you going to make a central next year? Yes, I am. My hotel is booked for 3 nights, and I bought my tickets, so I hope to see a lot of you there. Would you consider collaboration on-site project with Keith Brown? Yeah, I like Keith Brown. We obviously had a great chat the other week. I think he's Norwich way in Norfolk, so he's quite far, but if he ever moves and wants to build a new workshop, I'm happy to come and give him a hand. Oh, a lot of people ask me this. In fact, a lot of people, I haven't put names of who asked the questions because so many had multiple, asked multiple times. What's your full-time job? Well, from last year, I went full-time as a maker. So I sell things online, and I make YouTube videos, and I'm incredibly poor, living on beans and toast. But I'm happy. So hopefully things will pick up. What size timbers were used on the floor and the walls? So the base is all 2x4 treated timber, and the walls are 2x3 CLS, because it's much cheaper. A 2.4 meter length is only a couple of quid, so the actual framing was very cheap. Did do a curved roof cost more than a standard roof? Well, yes and no. I'd looked at doing a flat roof, but I hate using felt because it's a constant job repairing it. So I looked at putting a rubber roof, and that was basically going to be the same cost as the curved roof. So I thought I'd go for the curved. So yeah, it could be cheaper doing a flat roof if you felted it. Any plans for doing a Binging with Badger YouTube channel? Well, I did the kind of spoof one, making the gin, and that was good fun. But to be honest, well, anyone that makes YouTube videos knows how much time is involved. So I certainly do not have time for another channel, as much fun as that would be. And you haven't seen the kitchen in the house. It's pretty small, and it's pretty 1980s. So that is definitely a project to do the kitchen up, but I definitely couldn't do any filming in there. Where did you source your windows? I got them from Wix. I got a lot of my stuff from Wix, and I'm sure everyone's going to comment below, well, you could have probably got it cheaper here. Good thing about Wix is you can sign up to a trade card and get 10% off everything, but you can order online specifying a delivery day, and you can add things to a basket. A lot of builders merchants, they're very they don't publish their prices, so a lot of the stuff I ordered, I was back in Hampshire ordering deliveries to come for a week's time when I'll be driving up the night before and wanting the deliveries to turn up, and I wanted to know how much things would cost. So even if you don't order things from Wix, adding things to the basket just to get an idea of cost is very useful. How am I liking the new layout? Yeah, pretty good. I think workshop layouts are always a work in progress. I'm constantly moving things around, your workflow changes, and in fact, it's only been a few days since the workshop tour, and I've moved my workbench already. So yeah, it'll always be changing. Are you still chefing, or are you an international megastar with groupies? Well, I think I've covered that. I'm not chefing anymore, but I don't have any groupies. What makes your log stove, and where did you get it? It's a Windy Smith stove made by a blacksmithing company down in Devon, I believe. So I will put the link down below. In fact, let me put a note on here. Yeah, so there'll be a link down below, and they sell all the flue and flashing components as well. I didn't get my flue and flashing from them. I actually shopped around and got it from different suppliers. Don't ask me who, I don't know. But it's good because you can look at what the components are, so you know the names of the bits you need, and if you want to buy it from someone else, you can. Right, how well insulated against noise for neighbours? Well, let's do some tests. Okay, so you can see the ambient noise was around 40 decibels. That's just with the crackle with the wood stove. So probably my two noisiest bits of equipment, planer thicknesser and the dust extractor, when them two are on together. So let's put them on, look at the noise, and then have a walk around the workshop. So I'm stood at the back door of the house, so yeah, 49, 48. And this is around the back of the workshop. So you just got really a gentle rumble from outside. So I'll do the same for the table saw, so the ambient temperature will be exactly the same. So around the back, if ambient's 40, then with the table saw running it's 45, so very good. So insulation works well. Obviously you can still hear from the outside, but I think the time you walk to the house there, or the neighbours that side, it's a very low noise, even with the planer thicknesser going. I mean, obviously when you're feeding wood through, it's a bit noisier, but I only use it during the day. If I work out here at weekends, I try not to use the planer thicknesser, and if I do, I'm not using it for 8 hours at a time. I'm putting it on for 20 minutes just to do a bit I need. Right. A lot of people asked about the miter saw because I use the Evolution one a lot in the build of this, and I will do a review for that in the new year. I find the miter saw an absolutely essential tool for building something like this. You're cutting down lengths of 2x4 and 2x3 all day long, and the cladding to length. It's very handy, but space is limited in here, and it's with the slide on it. It's really big, and it's not such a great saw for more woodworking stuff. It's fine for construction. So I've been trying to use the table saw, but it is nice to have a whip blade and a crosscut blade. So I might get a miter saw, a different one. I keep the Evolution because it's good for cutting metal and plastic and for rough work, but it's in the garage at the moment. So yeah, I might get one and might build a miter station, but I'm still mulling over designs and things, and yeah, run out of money as well. So that's something that might come. When you argue with the missus, do you sleep in the workshop? Well, I'm single, so I don't have that problem. But the house is a project. It's not been decorated since the 1980s, so the workshop is actually much nicer. And I love the stove, so I really wouldn't mind sleeping in here at all. Alright, we've done one page. Fantastic. Are there any legal limitations to building without planning permission? Yes, there are. So I built this under the permitted development regulations. I am not going to go into them here because they are complicated, and there's exemptions, and it's a can of worms. You need to check for your area and for your house and your situation. But if you just Google permitted development UK, you will find all the information you need to know. What plans do I have for tool organisation and storage? Well, yeah, that's the trouble. You build the workshop and then you move your stuff in, and then you just get going with things. And you have all these great plans of how you're going to build all these units, and then yeah, things go by the wayside. So I had all ideas. I've got loads of scaffold boards and having all scaffold board shelves and cupboards all around the windows, and it's going to look really cool. With little cubbies for each tool for drills and saws and things. So I might still get round to it, but everything works as it is, so it's not a priority. This was a very common question actually. Do I have any regrets, and what would I do differently for the build? Well, I don't really, because before building this workshop, I've built 4 shepherd's huts, which are very similar designs. So after I built the first shepherd's hut, I'd do that differently, I'd do this differently. After I built the second, I was the same. By the time I got to the 4th, I had the process pretty much down. And so the house buying process took like 8 months. So I had 8 months to plan this workshop. Not that I planned it in my head. So I thought it through a lot of times. So it really came out pretty much exactly as I envisaged. So I've no regrets about it. I wouldn't do anything differently. Yeah, I'm very happy. A lot of people are very concerned about the roof. I really like the roof. There's no practical reason really to have it curved over flat, but it just looks more interesting, and it's a more interesting build, and that's why I did it. Is the workshop watertight? Do you think the stove is good enough to keep moisture away from your goodies? Yes, it's absolutely watertight. As I say, I built 4 shepherd's huts. In fact, I lived in the first one for a year. They're perfectly watertight. They're perfectly dry. There is no moisture problems. Yeah, these windows have trickle vents on them, so you can get a nice bit of airflow in here. No problem whatsoever. A question about the saw and the outside, so we've covered that. What happened to the Bosch table saw, and why did you change it? Well, I liked the Bosch table saw. It was really good, especially with the aftermarket fence that I put on it and the stand I built. This, I saw it on eBay. It's like a £600 saw, and they were selling them off at £200. And I thought, well, I can't go wrong. I'm going to buy one. If I don't get on with it, I'll just sell it again and probably get my money back. because the price has gone back up to the £650 mark. It was obviously just some seller getting rid of stock they don't want to sell anymore. Yeah, the Bosch was good. This is 8-inch, but I think we saw it running. You could talk normally. The induction motor is just so nice and quiet, and that was a big consideration for the whole build of this workshop, was keeping the noise down, and on new tools I bought. So I also got the pneumatic extractor from Axminster, which is really quiet as well, and a Swan air compressor, which is really quiet. So where I've upgraded tools, I've tried to get quieter versions. Even the Metabo planar thicknesser, compared to the Titan one, the Titan one hurts your ears. This one is so much quieter. Would I rather be or a wasp? I'd rather be a bee. Or the sea or the river. I'd rather be a river. Okay. Would I put more insulation in if there wasn't a stove? No. If this had, instead of 50mm insulation, if it had 100mm, if it had 200mm, if it was 0 degrees outside, it'd be 1 degree in here. The insulation doesn't work on its own. You need an insulation and you need a heat source. So without the stove, more insulation would really, well, I'm not saying it wouldn't help at all, because your body heat would warm it up and so would the machines a bit. But no, I think you need something to provide heat, and you need something to keep the heat in and it cool in the summer. So you need both. And I think thermally, the 50mm of insulation works fine. I'm sat here with it about 13 degrees in here, and I'm fine next to the stove. But if I'm working, that's pretty hot. I mean, I get up to 14 degrees in here some days, and you're stripping down to a t-shirt because you're moving around working. So you don't even want it that hot. Am I worried about condensation on the roof? No. If this was just bare metal, then yes, you'd have a problem and it would drip. But we've got the vapour barrier, then we have insulation. So the cold air, the hot air can't rise up and touch the cold roof. In fact, the first shepherd's hut I built, I was having water drip from the stove. So I got up on the roof, took that gasket off, resealed it, and it was still happening. I could not work out what it was. And what it was, well, I'd cut the hole in the roof. Obviously, I'd cut a hole in the vapour barrier and didn't have insulation right up to the stove. So there was about an inch around the pipe of bare roof exposed, and water would condense onto that and drip. So I just put some of the flashing tape around, and that stopped it. So the roof is only a problem if you have exposed bare metal, and we don't. So it's not a problem at all. And as I say, this is now the 5th one of these roofs I've done, and I lived in one for a year, so no problem at all. How did you power the shop? Armoured cable? Yes, armoured cable. So let's go and have a look at that. So the cable comes up through the floor, and little consumer unit there. So you can still see where I've put the turf back. So I cut a trench from the house all the way up, and the cable comes in there, and I'm going to cover that in a bit of decking. So yes, armoured cable. I ran all the cable and wired all the sockets in here and put the consumer unit in, and I left everything, sockets hanging off the wall. I dug the trench to 40 centimetres, and then I got a professional electrician in because the fuse box in the house was an old one with fuse wire, so I got him to upgrade that. He then ran the cable and wired it into the consumer unit, checked all my wiring and signed it all off. I know there's a question coming up later, so let's answer it now. It is 10mm armoured cable because it's quite a long run, and it gives me, probably future-proofs it. You perhaps could have got away with smaller armoured cable, but I don't want to dig another trench. If I get a big piece of machinery, that should be enough to power it. I mean, I've got lots of machinery in here, but you never got two bits running. You've got, say, a planer thicknesser and the extractor running at the same time. But if you was in a workshop with 2 or 3 people working with different bits of machinery, you'd need a lot of power. The floor, is it solid after it's screwed down? Yes. Yeah. A concrete base would be obviously a lot firmer. It would be a lot noisier. It would be a lot colder. It would be a lot more uncomfortable on your feet, and it would cost a lot more money. I mean, I wouldn't want to lay a concrete base 6 meters by 2 meters myself, particularly. And also, time frame. I needed to transition from my old workshop to this one. Building a concrete base, wouldn't have worked for me. Does the air gap underneath make it cooler? No, because I've got 50mm of the Kingspan insulation. A lot of people are very worried about me putting the insulation in with just friction fit. I'm not worried about it at all. Again, I've done this a few times before. In shepherd's huts that even move, it's fine. How many man hours? Right. So I had the house and I hadn't moved in. I was coming up and doing a bit of work at the weekends because where this was, there's some hedges and I had to take them down and dig out the roots and all that. So we won't include that because let's just say that it had a blank bit of ground. It took me 3 days to do the base with so really the first video doing the base, that was a 3-day process. And the third day actually was just putting the hard wax oil down. So then I moved in. I was doing the filming for the TV show at the weekend, and I came up on the Sunday evening. Monday morning, I came out. I spent 2 days framing all the walls, as you saw, kind of in a flat pack. On the Wednesday, I got the walls up. Thursday, I got it clad on the roof on. Friday, I got the windows and the doors fitted. And then we actually didn't do much over the weekend. We came inside and I ran the cables because my dad had turned up at that point. But we could have got the cladding done. So really, in 7 days, we could have got the whole of the outside, the whole of it built and it clad. And then it was pretty much another week doing the electrics, the insulation, the internal cladding, and then I think I spent 2 or 3 days painting. So perhaps 3 weeks in total. 3 weeks working every day. In the tour, you saw the bandsaw stand. Someone asked, why have I made it so tall, so it's taller than all the other things? Because I find you're stood up pushing things for a table saw. The bandsaw, you're doing more delicate cuts. I don't want to be leaning down. I want the table saw stand to be much higher. And that's really why we want to build our own things. But I've got a video coming out next week about building a table saw stand. It came with one. I thought it was too low for my taste. And so it's when we build stands for things ourselves, we build them to the height we want. If you want them lower, you can build them lower. I like my bandsaw up at a really quite high working height. I find that much more comfortable. How much for your hat? You can't have my hat. My ears would get cold. But I do love this cat hat. I've got 2 of them because they're about £3 or £4 off Amazon. So, because every night I have to pick the sawdust out of it. I'll put a link down below if you really want this hat. So my old shop obviously had some noise issues and was cold, but wasn't it much bigger? How do you feel about the downsides? The old shop did have noise issues because it was next to a busy road. I really liked it. It was a good space, and if I owned it, I could have sorted it all out. I could have insulated it, closed up the rafters. It would have cut the noise down. I could have put a stove in, but you're not going to spend the money on a property you're going to be leaving. It was internal, 20 foot by 10 foot. So I know I said this was 6 metres by 2 metres, but anyway, this is exactly the same length as the old workshop. It is just, say, that much narrower. So it definitely feels smaller, but it's manageable because I had to store things in there. I had racks of paint and finishes and wood, so much wood. None of that is in here. So yeah, I no one wants to downsize, but I also knew I was kind of spoilt. I know a lot of you watching probably have garden sheds or reasonably small garages and looked at my workshop and wish they'd had that. You always want more space, but this is fine for now. Oh, so my Outfeed table is the Path Style bench. I made one earlier in the year out of MDF, and this one out of plywood. Now, wow, let's go and have a look. So, Path dogs pulling out really nicely, and I found them really tight in the MDF. So if you're thinking about if to do ply or MDF, we've all got little scraps of ply and MDF in our shop. I would drill a hole in each, leave them in your workshop for a few months, see how they acclimatise and change, and which one you prefer before you buy a reasonably quality sheet of plywood and spend hours making something. Right, the people are obviously fascinated by my dress sense, my fantastic dress sense. Where do I get my shirts? So these are Dickies, I think they're called Portland shirts. Poppers, lots of padding. I've been living in these. I got a couple for Christmas last year. One's covered in paint because I pretty much wore it throughout the workshop build. This one I've kept a little nicer. So I like them because they're really nice and warm, and they're not that expensive. They're under 30 quid. So I'll put a link down below. Links will be affiliate links, so if you click on them, I get a bit of money, so thank you very much. Am I worried about moisture under the roof, airflow, keep it clear? No, I'm not worried. There is airflow because of the ridges, but no. Roof's fine, armoured cable we're covered. The garage looks bigger. Why did you not convert that? Well, that was my original plan. It's probably been there over 30 years. It's corrugated metal on a wooden frame that isn't is held together with metal plates and bolts, and if it should have been like that, it's all moved. It's a rickety old structure. So I thought, well, I'd want it insulated, so I thought I'd have to build a frame it out inside and then insulate and clad, which would make it all smaller. And I costed it out. We put new doors on and windows and running electrics, and it really wasn't going to be that much more expensive to build this. So you'd spend thousands on doing up a garage that really needs to be knocked down. And it's not that much bigger either. It's 10 foot by 17 foot. I know I've gone back to Imperial, but say this is 8 foot by 20 foot. So this is 3 foot longer, but 2 foot narrower. So yeah, I mean, I probably would prefer wider because it's more useful to have a bench in the middle and be able to walk around it. So my long-term plan, if I'm ever rich enough, would be to get that taken down and build another workshop there. Say make it slightly longer and slightly wider than it is now, and also it's got the pitched roof, or would have a pitched roof, because especially you can see it from the road, so the profile of a pitched roof is much more aesthetically pleasing than a flat roof. And then probably have this as more of the store for keeping wood and things, and maybe doing finishing and painting. But yeah, these are long-term plans. And another question was, what are my short-term plans for the garage? Well, it's full of junk at the moment. It all needs tidying up a bit, maybe building some racking to put the wood on, so the wood is all along the back, all along down one side. And then maybe I can use that to do some metal work, because I would like to get into welding. So if I can get the wood all out the way in there, then a metal garage with a paving slab base would be quite good for welding. When I put the stove in, I kind of joked in the video about having a skylight in the roof. Am I thinking about doing that in the future? No, absolutely not, because the only way to put a skylight, really, well, unless you're spending ridiculous amounts of money, I guess, is to use curved plastic corrugated sheets. Well, I've just spent all this effort trying to make it soundproof and thermally insulated as possible. If you just put 1mm thick plastic in a roof panel, all the heat would be lost, all the sound would go through that, so definitely don't want to do that. Also, because I film in here, having controllable light is important. It'd be really hard in midsummer to have light streaming through the roof. I think as it is with these windows, I'll probably have to get blinds or make shutters for them, or diffusers of some kind in the summer for when I film, but that's not going to be a problem for a few months. I've got clamps hanging off the window bars at the moment. Does that block out light? Yes it does, but I just had my clamps on the floor and I thought I can hang them on there. It's a temporary thing. I need to build a clamp rack, definitely. But then also, I thought, if I go away and leave the workshop all locked up, having the clamps on the window is quite good, because from a quick glance you can see, oh, there's bars across the window if there's actually things hanging off them. Plus, if you try to break the window open, then you've got to remove all the clamps and make a lot of cluttering noise. So yeah, that's definitely an organisation project, sorting out how to store clamps. Do the lamps give off enough light? Everyone's very worried about the light situation in here. Well, as you saw in the tour, I use photographic lights as well. So the lamps, I really like the lamps. It's like the bandsaw stand. If you want it shorter, have it shorter. If you want it tall, have it tall. Light situation here, if I'd whitewashed all the walls, that'd be by far the most practical thing. But it's not all about practicality, is it? You've got to like your space. And I like this colour. I like my lamps going round. They look great. It's a nice space to be. It's not just, a shed at the bottom of the garden. The lights have all got cool white bulbs in. They give off enough light for me, and when I'm filming I have these photographic lights on which are super bright. So yeah, it's more than enough light. Maybe if I didn't have the photographic lights and wasn't filming, I would have done the lights differently. But yeah, you do it how you want. Everyone's suggesting I put LED strips under the shelves. I don't like LED strips. I like lamps. I like lighting. Hiding strips away just isn't my personal taste. But if it's I can see that it's practical. If you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. Oh, but 2 questions that people want to see things. One is, what was my EDC? So we're going to have a look at that, and my collection of hand planes. So let's get up again. So right at the back we've got a wooden rebate plane, which I got for a few quid at a boot sale and sharpened it up. You can see it's got some paint on it from the previous owner, but it's super helpful if you're cutting rebate and you want to clean it up. And then I've got a little Veritas router plane. That is super cool for cleaning up dados. Next is a Stanley hand plane. I don't have the model number. I really like that, but to adjust the blade, it's you loosen the blade off, and so it's not a quick adjust. The more fancy one is a Faithful one, which looks like a Stanley clone and looks nice with the brass, but it's a pile of rubbish. We've got a scrub plane there that needs tuning up. This is a bit of a hybrid through my box of spares. I have a box of plane parts. I think it's a Stanley
base with a aftermarket blade, and then the I've forgotten the bit, the plate that holds it on is from a Faithful one, so it's a bit of a mismatch, but it's good. This one, I think it's WH Birmingham. Let me pull it out and have a look. No, completely wrong. SW Birmingham. I really like this plane, and this is number 4, and I've been looking online for a number 5, and I've bid a few times but never won one. This is my Axminster Rider low angle jack. Great plane, really like that. And Axminster, if you didn't know, if you go to the bottom of their website, they have an eBay outlet link, and they often have seconds and things of these planes at considerable discount. So there we've got another Faithful plane. So Faithful planes are really cheap and they're rubbish, but if you put the work in, this is a number 7, which I got when I built my workbench. I spent hours and hours with a belt sander to start with, flattening it and then flattening it by hand, and after all that work it worked really well, and it was valuable for doing something like a workbench compared to spending say £100 on a Stanley and God knows what on a Veritas. An old wooden plane, and I've got loads more in bits somewhere else. So question on what's my EDC. So I've got the Classic on there. That's got a spare battery for torching. That's a shopping trolley universal thing. And then I've got the fish hook that goes in my belt so I never lose my keys. I've got this little jet beam, takes a AAA flashlight. AAA battery. God, trying to be American there, it didn't work. Fisher Space Pen. I've got a Victorinox Pioneer X, which I've kind of done a bit of customization on the green. And I've got an iPhone SE with a, I think that's an OtterBox case, and this bit of metal in the back. There's a magnet on my dash so it clips on. So that's all the questions that have come in so far. I'm sure as soon as this goes out, loads more will come in. So if I feel there's things that need covering, maybe I'll do a little follow-up. So I hope that answers most of the questions. Thanks for watching.